We've got a lot of questions to ask ourselves during this video. Will there be a rematch between Ilia Topuria and Alexander Volkanovski? Or will there be someone else challenging for the featherweight belt? We'll also be asking ourselves, what happened with the UFC 300 announcement? Was it the best move? Will there be a UFC Spain in a stadium? And could it be Conor McGregor headliner? Also, will Garry be taking on Colby Covington next? And of course, the rest of the rankings. Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC. And in this show, we're going to be recapping the events from UFC 298 that happened this past weekend and matching up some of the winners and losers. So if that sounds like a good idea to you, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and of course, buckle up because we got a lot to get through. First of all, should probably go through some honourable mentions. Some people in the prelims. The headline of the prelims was an absolute scrap. Deserved to be fight of the night. I felt that Mackenzie Dern done enough to get the job done. Of course, I'm biased because I'm a Mackenzie Dern fan. I felt she won rounds 1 and 3. She went off celebrating, thought she won the fight, but of course it was Amanda Lemos who picked up the split decision, or unanimous decision, in the end. Marcus Rogério de Lima's knockout against Justin Jr. Tuffer, was pretty impressive as well. And shout out, of course, to Miranda Maverick, who's been on the channel before. She's got the win via decision against Andrea Lee. And, of course, Oban Elliott from Wales getting the win against Val Woodburn as well. Great night of fights all together. Pretty impressive. And, of course, I think they're going to get better and better throughout this kind of beginning of 2024. You know, UFC 299 is probably going to be better than 300. But, you know, fingers crossed. Maybe 300 they can pull it out of the bag. But look, it's going to be exciting stuff. And I can't wait to share these wonderful moments with you guys. So, yeah, we'll kick off with Gus will kick off talking about the first fight of the main card between Anthony Hernandez. I keep saying Alex Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez and Roman Kopylov. That was a fun fight, man. I tell you what, Anthony Hernandez really impressed me because he kind of struggled initially getting the takedown attempts first, you know, and Kopilov's body kicks were just so brutal, man. I thought that perhaps it was going to be a long night. I picked Anthony Hernandez. I felt that he was going to get the round 2 submission, even though Kopylov has got very good takedown defense, and it did have me worried there. It did have me worried. I thought that perhaps Kopylov was going to do enough on the feet, keep it standing, chip away at Hernandez, and just kind of grind out a unanimous decision. But I stuck with the pick. I'm so glad that he paid off in the end. And Anthony Hernandez is onto some big things now in this middleweight division. That's 5 straight wins now in a row. And I think there's a couple of submissions in there as well. So props to him. Great show, of course, as always. I just need to click on that just to double check this. Bosh. That I've got the right chat key in here. I think I have, so we're all good. Yeah, so he moves on. Questions in terms of fight announcements or future fights. Do you think they will rebook the Aliskerov fight, or should Hernandez be moving on to higher opponents now? So what do you reckon? Get in the chat section, get in the comments section below if you're catching this the next day, and let us know, because I feel like the Aliskerov fight, they should probably try and rebook it, but at the same time could be best for them to move on, really. But my other option for him would be Roman Dolidze, of course, coming off a loss against Nassourdine Imavov. I think that fight should be closely contested on the ground. But Dolidze will probably have the power edge between the two. So it's a bit of a shame. I think maybe perhaps Roman Dolidze could get the nod in that one. So who knows? My option for Roman Kopylov now would be the Pirate, Shara Magomedov, 12-0, coming off a tough decision win against Bruno Silva. Book it in Abu Dhabi, I would say. In the summer, I think they'll probably return to Abu Dhabi in the summer. It'll be a bit of Russian versus Russian crime. So fingers crossed that plays out. But that's kind of like the only real matchup I can see, really, for Kopylov. But outstanding fight. Smash that like button if you've not done so already. And, of course, let us know what you think. Oh, sorry. I was meant to go to the other scene. Cool. I've not done this in a while, have I? It's been a while. But, wrong one. There we go. There's the images. Hernandez with the choke. Rear naked choke, man. That's what... I'm sure that's a couple of submissions now that he's had in the 5-fight win streak that he's got. Just going to double check. So, Rob Kopylov, the arm triangle against Marc-Andre Barriot, and then the arming guillotine against Rodolfo Vieira. So that's 3 submissions in the last 5. The ground and pound against Edmund Shabazin was brutal. Yeah, man, got to keep an eye on him. He's flying under the radar. And if we'll return to the rankings later on for this. But of course, Brendan Allen's moved up 1 spot above Paulo Costa, who's fallen short. Not a great recent record. We'll get onto him in just a sec. Jack Hermansson's moved up 1 spot as well. I think that's probably recently, last week. Andy Hernandez moving up 2 spots in there, in at number 13. Moves above Chris Curtis, of course, was paired up against at one point in time. But yeah, impressive stuff. Can't wait to see him back in the octagon. So let's take us back then to the second fight of the night, which was probably maybe people were most looking forward to this fight. I too felt that it was better than the co-main event. Probably should have been the co-main event. 2 highly decorated bantamweights, former champion as well. Merab Dvalishvili got the nod on the night. Cejudo, I felt, had a very good first round. Looked good on the feet. Remained on top in the scrambles. Put Merab on his back. But eventually just couldn't keep up with the pace, man. Merab just kind of schooled him. The Olympic gold medalist. Like, it was just insane to watch. I kind of knew it. I picked Merab. But I was telling everybody we should watch out for Cejudo because he could do some good stuff in this fight. Sadly, I couldn't see it going past the first round. Those stuff that I mean. I've got my stuff mixed up. Psycho Paul's in the house this evening. JK, awful choice of shirt this evening. Well, I thought I'd rep the United shirt. Of course, we're doing quite well at the moment, and it's red, of course. The theme of the Aftermath show. Let me know. Who do you support, Paul? I want to know. Don't disappoint. Pressure's on. Ash is in the house, beating 3 former champs in a row now. That's a good shout, actually. That is a very, very good shout. Merab, man, is the machine for a reason. That's just insane. And this is ideal path to the belt now, isn't it? But you got to think he is next in line, right? Without a doubt it. I mean, with every fight now he's been having, we've been thinking, right, he's there. Like, he's there. But he keeps taking a new fight, defending his ranking over and over again. He's willing to fight anybody, this guy. But if injuries do occur at UFC 299, then I think that maybe they might throw him Corey Sandhagen as a bit of a number 1 contender fight. Especially if Marlon Vera does get the win against Sean O'Malley. Now, I know that Ash thinks that Marlon Vera is going to get the win. But then surely Corey's got to step up and be like, look, I know you're number 1 in the rankings. Let's go into the rankings, actually, while we're here. Wrong one. I know you're number 1 in the rankings, but I beat that guy. I already have a win over that guy. So let's fight it out and see who the real winner is. So we'll pop that chat down now. Psychoball says Arsenal could be worse, JK. Ooh, really? Do you fancy your chances this season? I don't know, man. Don't know. It's all to play for at the top at the moment. Sadly, we're not in it. But anyhow, back to the sport of mixed martial arts. Of course, we all love and adore. Murad moving to number 1, as I said a second ago. Above Aljamain Sterling, which I think will get removed once he fights at featherweight. Pidian and Marlon Rivera moving up a spot above Henry Cejudo, who slips after 2 straight losses in a row. I guess the question is now, what is next for Henry Cejudo? Do you think he should retire, or do you think he should fight one more? Personally, I'd like to see a rematch with Dominic Cruz. I think Dominic Cruz would really enjoy that fight. I think he would want that. I did see him on Instagram hitting pads, and there is one fight left to make at UFC 300. So, could we see Dominic Cruz at UFC 300? My guesses would be yes. Against who is another question. Because let me bring up my other rankings and tell you who's currently booked in this bantamweight division. You've got Cody Garbrandt fighting Davison Figueiredo. That is at UFC 300. You've got Pedro Munoz, which I guess he's already fought Dom before. He's fighting Kyler Phillips. You've also got Jonathan Martinez and Rob Font in there. Now, I've mentioned, I think, before that Dominic Cruz and Rob Font should probably be paired up. I think that would be a wise fight to make because Rob Font is, I think, 37, so he's getting on quite old. Him and Dom are at the same age. Well, Dom's a year older than him, so I think that's probably the fight to make at UFC 300 if Rob Font is healthy and well, unless they throw Dom an absolute killer, I guess, rising through the ranks, but there isn't that many people. So yeah, if Dom's not going to be fighting at UFC 300, Henry Cejudo down the line makes a lot of sense. What do you reckon in the chats? Get in there and let me know what you think. Ash says, I think Henry, to save his legacy, needs to go back down. Ooh, I don't know. It might be a little bit tough for him now at this age. Do you know what I mean? Would be fun though. Would be fun. Ash says, can't see him beating any other bantamweight. Wow. I mean, I would like to see the Cruz fight. You know, I think it makes a lot of sense because of where both guys are at in their careers, and then both can just bow out at the end. You know, I think it makes sense. I don't know. What do you reckon? Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. We've got plenty of gossip coming your way. We're going to be talking about the UFC 300 announcement and whether or not it was the best move to make. We will talk about the UFC Stadium event in Spain and could it be possible that Ilia Topuria fights Conor McGregor down the line. And we'll talk about Ian Machado Garry's call out of Colby Covington. So look, there's plenty to get through, guys. It's going to be entertaining. I can't wait to get through these topics with you guys. All right, so that was the second fight of the night. Let's head on back then to what was the third fight as Ian Garry picking up the decision win against Jeff Neal. Wasn't surprised by the outcome at all. I picked decision in that one as well. Garry did what he needed to do, and I guess maybe some people may give him some stick a little bit because it wasn't the most entertaining of fights. You could say maybe perhaps he played it safe, and he was cautious against Neal because of his power, you know, that Jeff Neal possesses. But I quite like the fact that Garry was following up nicely with his punches after landing the body kick, and often looked to land the knee up the middle on the odd occasion as well. But he was just shy at landing it perfectly. You know, you can see he was just trying it over and over again. Neal he just didn't let Neal bully him in the clinch match, which I was kind of wondering. He stayed quite defensively sound in there. Lot of clinch battle, but Garry came out on top on the end. Better strikes, bit more efficiency, and not surprised by the outcome. Now, we'll talk about Ian Machado Garry a little bit more later on during the news segment of the show. But we'll talk about Jeff Neal, though. What could be next for him? So, if I head on back into the rankings, welterweight, to see what's been updated here. Garry moving up to number 6 now after beating the number 8th ranked at the time. I did see a tweet about that, actually. People complaining, like, how does that make sense? But I guess it does in a way, the fact that he's undefeated, you know? And you look at Sean Brady. Okay, he's coming off a win. One win. He's on a one-fight win streak. Stephen Thompson lost his last fight. Jeff Neal lost as well. He just beat Jeff Neal even, sorry. So it doesn't really, it kind of makes sense to me, I think. But for Jeff Neal, though, moving down to number 9, I think what's next for him would be the winner of Kevin Holland versus MVP, perhaps. Especially if Kevin Holland gets the upset against MVP. I would kind of hold that thought a little bit, because I do think that if MVP does beat Kevin Holland, the UFC will want to fast track him further up there. So beating the number 13 guy and then moving up a couple of spots to the number 9 guy, you know, and I think the UFC probably paying MVP quite well. So my guess would be a little bit of a fast track. You know, how far do you go, though? You know, if Gilbert Burns has a difficult outing against Jack Della Maddalena, he's going to fall down some spots. Then he could be there for the taking. Or unless you do MVP versus, I don't think you could do MVP versus Ian Garry, but I don't think Ian Garry maybe will take that fight. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section and in the chats. Ash says JDM. Yeah, you can kind of see it, can't you? The boxer against the flamboyant kickboxer. MVP's done some boxing in his time as well. So maybe that does make sense. But I don't know. Tough fight, I think, against a young JDM. Breezy says, hello. Sorry, I'm slightly late. I mean, look. You're here at least. Breezy. Good to see you in as always. Smash that like button, man. Did you catch the fights? And let me know what you think is next for these guys and what you think should be the right move for Ilia Topuria and Alexander Volkanovski. My other option for Jeff Neal would be the loser of JDM versus Gilbert Burns. Potentially, depending on how far Gilbert Burns falls. I don't think it'd be too much if he loses to JDM. I know it's a big jump for JDM. They're clearly trying to push him quite a bit. If JDM loses, then I guess, you know? Because if Luke beats Joaquin Buckley, he's not going anywhere. Yeah, because there's not really a lot of fights for Jeff Neal otherwise. Really? He's fought a lot of guys. Do you want to run it back against Neil Magny? No one wants that. The guy at number 15, Rinat Fakhorodov, he's coming off a draw, so I don't think he's going to be fighting anybody up. I guess it could depend on if Buckley does beat Luque. That would be another option. But yeah, that's enough on Jeff Neal. We'll get into, like I said, into more of Ian Machado Garry a little bit later on in the show. Let's get into then the co-main event. We're there already. Co-main event. What I'm doing. Head on back. Which was in the middleweight division. Robert Whittaker picking up decision win against Paulo Costa. Look, aside from getting hit with that spinning wheel kick late in round 1, he was in the driver's seat kind of for most of the fight in typical Robert Whittaker's fashion. You know, using footwork to manage the distance, strike Costa at range, and counter when Costa kind of commits. He was the quicker fighter than Costa throughout and was able to land the cleaner strikes as the fight drew long. 2 judges scored the first round to Costa because of that late kick. One thing that they were talking about in the Anik and Florian podcast, which was quite interesting, is that they felt that Paulo Costa looked like he felt that he was up on the scorecards already during the fight, you know? So maybe the fact that maybe Paulo Costa kind of needs to really reevaluate things and kind of maybe pick up a bit more on what his opponent is doing instead of focusing too much on what he's going to do or about to do. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen a post-fight statement from Costa. about the fight. I mean, it just wasn't good enough. And I think there's going to be some tough fights for him coming up. I mean, I've got one in mind. Breezy says, indeed, I did. Whittaker to be champ by the end of the year, ? Hoping for a quick turnaround. Uncommon for him, however, that is very true. But need it for my predictions. Oh, yes, that's of course. Ash says the only fight to make, Sean Strickland versus Whittaker. Breezy says, I've got to be Strickland. It's got to be Strickland next. Yeah, I think so. I've got Strickland in there. As an option, as an only real option. Let's head on to the rankings then. Because as we can see here, it's back to the rankings. Whittaker in at number 3. Strickland in at number 1. Coming off that loss. The only option for Whittaker other than Strickland could be Khamzat Chimaev. But I'm sticking with Khamzat Chimaev versus Jared Cannonier purely because I think it's a more winnable fight for Chimaev, sorry. So I think the UFC will want to do that. Of course, a win against Robert Whittaker gets you an immediate title shot. If you beat Jared Cannonier, would he still be there? Especially if Whittaker is knocking on the door with, alright, he's on a 1-fight win streak. Paulo Costa probably doesn't deserve it, but if Whittaker goes on to beat Strickland, then yeah, he's there. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I think this gives Whittaker a chance to reclaim this top spot that was once upon a time his. But can Whittaker withstand Strickland's pressure? That's the question about that fight. I think he can because of his movement is very good. I think that Strickland could have a hard time against Whittaker, but at the same time, he shut Izzy down. So, maybe we could get a Strickland win. I don't know who wins that fight, honestly, guys. What do you think? Would you give it to Strickland or would you give it to Whittaker? Smash a like on the video if you've not done so already. At the moment, my head says Strickland, I'm afraid. Just based on that Izzy fight. Can't see it being a finish. It's going to go to a decision. But, it is what it is. But for Paulo Costa, I think there's only real one option, and that's the rising Nasruddin Imavov in at number 8 there. He's just come off that win against Roman Dolidze, as I mentioned earlier. Costa would be the next step up for him. Another fight night, main event perhaps, for Costa and Imavov. Because other than that, you're then looking at, no one else really. Unless he decides to step in if Marvin Vettori pulls out of the fight against Brendan Allen. But that fight is going to be in April. Still some time. Who knows? I think if you're Paulo Costa, you stay ready, you heal up, stay in the gym. You never know what could come calling. That's what I would say. Because I don't think that... I don't think it'll be Jack Hermansson. I mean, it could be, but... Hermansson versus Paulo Costa, he's not an entertaining one for me. You could say that Jack Hermansson would win that fight. Judging off of what we saw this past weekend, I could see it. I really do. Same with Imavov, really. I don't know what you think. Ash says, yeah, or Khamzat versus Whittaker if they want to fast-track Khamzat. Yeah, so he agrees with me on that one there. Top stuff. All right. Cool. So what do you reckon about those matchups? Smash a like on the video, as I said earlier on, and hit that subscribe button if you're new and just joining us. We're on to the main event already. Before we get into the news side of things, here we go. Of course, Ilia Topuria defeating Alexander Volkanovski. Volk fans, very unfortunate night for them. Judges apparently scored the first round to Volk, though. How did you score it? I kind of felt that it was a bit of a toss-up. It was very 50-50, but maybe Topuria edged it for me. I don't know. I think most of the guys on the couch felt that way. Ash says, Costa versus Imavov, definitely. Breezy says, does Allen get a jump up? I'm unsure unless we do Strickland versus Rob, who gets the shot. Ooh, yeah. But I mean, look, I think middleweight's getting pretty pretty tasty at the moment. I think we need the likes of Brendan Allen to keep winning. We need the likes of Alex Hernandez to keep winning. Hamzat Chimaev to put his name into the hat. Imavov looked good against Delize, but it could be a bit of a tough one in top 5 for him. So yeah, some fun fights at middleweight this year for sure. Sorry, back into featherweight. We got sidetracked a little bit. Yeah, how did you score that first round? That's what I want to know. And the finish happened so quick. You know, Topuria pounced at the right moment there, using the overhand to force Volkanovski back past the black line, where he could put that killer combination together, which we've seen before. You know, he draws out the jab, works the body, and then lands that right hand over the top. And, you know, there was a left hook in there that was partially blocked in the movement as well. We'll get into the next matchup for Ilia Topuria in a bit, because, of course, we're talking about that in the new side of things. As for Volkanovski, he just mixing up the kicks was good. The use of the jab was working well for him. He just zigged when he should have zagged, in my opinion, you know. He said he was cautious about being pressed back too much against Topuria, but, you know, just wasn't quick enough with his movement at the time, you know. It is what it is. But should he receive an immediate rematch is the question. If so, when will it be? I would think July, August. I think that's the time when Volk usually has his second fight of the calendar year. But now I'm going to play a clip for you guys, because here's my prediction from last year. Now, I predicted the fight, but then I also kind of, in the champion prediction show that we did, also predicted what would follow should Topuria be victorious. So check this guy out, guys. Is this the start of Volkanovski's downfall? Can we expect a tough 2024 from him? Because I've got a feeling we will. Here's my prediction. I'm going Ilia Topuria. I think he's going to knock out Volk. Volk's going to take some time off, and then Ilia's going to defend it against someone else.
Oh, wow.
What do you think? Oh, I did press it too early there. What did you guys think of that? I think he should. Volkanovski. Sorry, this is the wrong page. I think he should take some time out, and maybe we could see someone else get the nod. You know, who would that be though? Who would that be? If Max Holloway beats Justin Gaethje or loses, he could be in there to fight for the belt. I think that's something the fans want to see. But other than that, what you gonna give it to Movsar Evelev? I mean, he's very skilled. Don't get me wrong, but he's just not been shutting the door on people. He's not been getting finishes, so I can't see him getting the nod. Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez winner this weekend could very well put their name into the hat. Both guys fought Volk before, lost. Do they cause problems? Who causes Ilia the most problem out of those two? I actually might say Yair. I don't know. Maybe. I think Yair might have a hard time against Topuria, in my opinion. George Merry's in the house. Yes, George, where have you been, my man? He says, good evening, men. Absolutely. Smash a like on the video, George. And what do you think should be next for Ilia Topuria? Breezy says it was crazy because Volk was really starting to get in a groove and Ilia just flatlined him. Insane power for the weight class. I just really want to see him fight Max. However, I think he submits him. Wow. Yeah, maybe. I think there's a possibility that we could see Max be finished for the first, well, is it first time? Second time? Or the first time at featherweight. He also says, I think he has a claim to one after being so dominant in the division. Okay. He did allude to taking some time off. George says Volk versus Evelev. Yeah. I mean, but personally, as history has shown in the past, if you're a dominant champion with X amount of title defenses, you do deserve an immediate rematch. So I kind of think what's best for Volk is to take time out, let Topuria fight somebody else, and then come back, and then we can have that epic showdown again. But like I said, if they're going to do the Volkanovski fight, and that is the next move, whether it be in a stadium in Spain, which we'll get into in a sec, then it will probably be July/August time. And of course, Santiago Bernabeu will be out of season finished, so perfect time. Breezy says UFC posted today with a list of Volk, Evelev, and Connor. Ooh, that is true. I did see that. Max Holloway was grayed out there at the bottom. That was intriguing. Ilia versus Max or Yair Ortega. Yeah, I mean, maybe they might pass on Max because, I mean, look, let's face it, Gaethje's going to beat him. You know, at lightweight, Gaethje's going to beat him. But, you know, so I think that you need a winner. You do need a winner. George says Islam comes down to 45. Behave, man. That guy's thick. He ain't doing that. Good insight, says Coach Bald K. Yes, Coach Bald K. Get back in the chats, of course. Smash a like on the video, buddy. What do you think? Do you think that there should be an immediate rematch between Ilia Topuria and Alex Volkanovski? Oh, look, I'll be excited to see it, nonetheless. But like I said, I think Volk should take some time out. But what does Volk need to do next time? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you what he needs to do next time. Now that he's been in there with Topuria, I'm sure that he can assess where he went wrong in this fight and make sure that that doesn't get replicated again. Because it is usually against the cage where Topuria lands that combination, which kind of puts people out. He did exactly the same against Jai Herbert. And he also, well, I mean, he submitted Bryce against the cage, but he was piecing up Josh Emmett for 5 rounds, more or less doing the same sort of kind of thing. Emmett's got a chin, though. That's what we learned in that fight. But the things that Volk needs to do is probably more level changes and takedown attempts overall, because I didn't really see too much of it. Keep using the jab and mixing up the kicks, but try feinting the jab and time his right high kick when Topuria ducks his head to the left. Because we saw that a few times in the fight. You know, because he's looking for that left hook to the body. So, you know, Topuria is not the tallest of featherweights. He's an inch taller than Volk. So Volk can land a head kick. And look, maybe that could be the shutout moment in the second fight. Just saying. Or Volk's going to challenge Topuria more on the ground and maybe just try and sap the energy out from Topuria. I mean, well, we saw his cardio against Josh Emmett, but the thing is with Topuria, he doesn't really put on a high pace. He's very patient. You know, he gets his reads and really reserves his power. So Volk, we know, can go cardio. He can go 5 rounds. He's a machine. But grappling would probably benefit him, I think. Breezy says, Dunno, Islam has struggled to make the current weight at times. Coach Bald K says, checking in from St. Petersburg, Florida. Oh, mate, I'm going to Florida in April, my man. I'm going to be in Orlando. Sending sunshine and good vibes your way. Thank you, Coach K. Appreciate that, man. Get over to Orlando in April. That's what I'm going to say, man. Kyle in the house says, hi, Jordan. Hi, Kyle. Aaron says, yes, JK, United are Dogland. All right. Aaron says, Topuria is very prone to head kicks. We seen that with Jai Herbert nearly put him out. Exactly. And that's what I was a bit scared of. I thought that Volk was going to bring that. I think Volk was too concerned about using his jab a bit, I think, really. And maybe where his positional sense was in the octagon, but it didn't really work out. You know, but like I said, Topuria set it up with that overhand right. He pushed him back at times. So I think Volk can beat Topuria. I think he can. Look, would it be against seeing it? No. I think it'd make things more interesting. Probably the most interesting fight in the whole division. Bar Evelev, stylistically. But on paper, Volk trilogy? Yeah, take my money. Breezy says, Dunno, couldn't call someone getting knocked down once very prone. Wonder what would have happened if he didn't get back up, though. Ooh, that is true. I mean, that's one thing that I kind of felt coming into this fight was I felt that Jai Herbert could probably do with some respect, more respect, for actually dropping Topuria to a knee, like, you know, don't you think? He's very skilled, is Herbert. He's just been very unlucky in his UFC career. Hopefully he can, you know, progress and as things go forward. All right, lovely stuff, guys. Excellent chats coming on in. Let's get your thoughts and opinions now on the next thing, which we're going to be talking about UFC 300 announcement. Look, here we go. I'm going to bring these two images up, because we're going to be going through them. Two accounts from Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira. That is the fight that the UFC have made. But hey, Dana, you said you were going to blow us away with the announcement. What was that? What was that? You kind of effed up here. Massively. You know, I guess things didn't materialize. He says that you could make a documentary about the fight announcement, putting this fight together. I think you owe the fans that documentary so we can sympathize with you. Because if you don't put anything out, that's it. You've literally got us off the radar. You know what? It's kind of made me feel that this fight being made is like your Valentine's date with your girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever you swing. It's like saying, "Oh, come on, babe, we'll go to a Michelin star restaurant like Gordon Ramsay or any of those the top places, right?" And then taking them to Nando's or Taco Bell instead, or anywhere like that. Yeah, we like those places, but that's not what we were expecting on Valentine's night. Do you know what I mean? It's the same kind of thing. I don't know what you guys thought of it, but I just felt that this fight could have been made on another card. We was expecting GSP, perhaps. We was rumoured to be Brock Lesnar's return, Ronda Rousey, both Diaz brothers, Conor maybe, a super fight between Leon Edwards and Makhachev, which we're going to get into in a sec as well. But we didn't get any of that. So now you've got to live with UFC 300 not being as good as UFC 299. I feel like you need to swap those cards around entirely. Now, don't get me wrong, when you look at UFC 299, the whole card is stacked top to bottom. The one fight on there that doesn't blow your hair back is probably the main event, because we've already seen it. The rest of them, banger after banger. Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint-Denis, amazing. MVP, Kevin Holland, oh, mate. Boners all round, mate. But it just, you know, I don't know. We'll just have to put up with it as fans, haven't we? But let's get into Jamal Hill's account of things then, because he was talking on, was it we were talking to Aaron Bronstetter, and he said everybody wants to be on UFC 300, but realistically, it didn't really come on my radar and didn't really happen until like the day before UFC 298. I'm not even gonna lie, like yesterday when he called me and he let me know the situation. Well, basically the situation was they needed a main event. They had some things lined up, but they prepared it. Me and Alex. It was the first option. It's what they really wanted. The people definitely wanted it. That's what they've been asking me for months now. All week, yeah, it made sense. Now, of course, we knew that was going to be the next fight at light heavyweight, but not necessarily UFC 300 worthy. Now, Alex Pereira's accounts of this was, he says in a video the other day that if all goes well against Jamal Hill, he doesn't get injured in there, he would like to basically headline UFC 301 in Brazil. So a quick turnaround. But look, it could line up that way, Because in my opinion, I think they were going to make Pereira versus Hill in Brazil anyway, right? That was the fight they were going to make. But they moved it forward to 300 because they got nothing else, and they need to sell tickets. The tickets go on sale very soon. So they need a main event. But my question is, why wasn't Dricus du Plessis versus Izzy made? That could have been in there. Surely there's something up. I think that the two camps were probably talking to the UFC about it. So why wasn't that fight made? Hopefully news will come out about that soon. You know, it's just so poor. Because now who's going to headline that Brazil card? Who's going to headline it? You can't do Pantoja versus whoever at flyweight. You're better off making the Brazil card into a fight night and having Pantoja defend his belt on a fight night. That's it. Who else is going to headline that card? You know, I'm just going to have a glance at the rankings now. Anyone who's Brazilian. Because there is no, like, you've got Gelton Almeida's fighting Curtis Blades. That's at 299. If he gets out of that unscathed, they're going to probably ask Tom Aspinall to jump in there against Almeida in Brazil and defend his interim heavyweight belt. That's an option. No one at heavyweight. No one at light heavyweight. No one at middleweight. No one at welterweight. Charles Oliveira. Sarukian. It's not really a pay-per-view headliner, is it? If they were to move that fight from 300, then you just water down 300, don't you? There's literally no one. You've got no one Brazilian. You're just going to have to give them someone else. There's literally no one. I don't know what you guys think of it, but the UFC got themselves in a bit of a pickle here. Right, let's get some chats. Breezy says ATF in Spain. All right, we'll get back to that in a bit, mate. He said Jai just hasn't taken an easy fight. Fights proper killers, that's true. Jamal Hill is a wet wipe, says Aaron. Greed should be a better matchup. This one's perfect for 301 in Brazil. Yes, JK, great look at it, says Ash. Breezy said Leon offered 3 fights and the list during Ramadan is just dumb. Had Bilal's pants down though. Yeah. All right, let's get into that bit because that's actually next up on the agenda. Was the 3 options that Leon Edwards was given. Shout out to MMA Orbit for basically repurposing stuff that's come from MMA Hour. But according to Ariel Hawani, 3 fighters were offered to Leon Edwards: Hamzat Shemaev, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Islam Makhachev. Now let's go through the reasons why they wouldn't have been made. Hamzat can't make the weight at welterweight anymore, and constant visa issues, that kind of rules him out. Shavkat, apparently his manager said that they didn't receive an offer at all. That's something that I've researched today, and that's probably not gone out in the press as much. And he's also recovering from injury, so that rules him completely out. And Islam doesn't like competing during Ramadan. So they're your options. Belal Muhammad completely passed up. Not surprised. Why is that? Now, what really annoyed me when listening to Brendan Sharp's podcast today is that he was pulling on Bilal's nuts. He mentioned that apparently he was meant to do a video for Belal for him to campaign for the UFC 300 fight against Leon Edwards, and was going at the UFC for not making that fight. Are you stupid? Yes, he deserves a fight, but it's not UFC 300 worthy. You can put that fight that's going to get made for UFC 302, right? That would make sense. I can see them making that. But for UFC 300, big numbered event, do you really want to put someone in there that the fans aren't bothered about? They aren't, which sucks to see. It's unfortunate for Belal. I'm not having a pop at Belal at all, but it's just the reality. The UFC don't want to make that as the headliner. People will slate that massively if you made that as the headliner. Pereira versus Hill is the better option. I'm glad if we had to pick between the two, that is the option you go for. It is what it is. I mean, it's just no easy. Breezy says 300 is stacked. The main event just isn't what we expected. The 300 prelims are mental. Breezy, are you going to come over for 300? We need to figure out who's coming over into the house for UFC 300. Rumours are we might be doing a full card watch along for it. I mean, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So we're going to try and stay up and keep you guys entertaining throughout the whole thing. Aaron says main event level fighters on prelim is mad. That's true. The fact the main event is ass, says Breezy. Ash says, like you said, man, it's still a great fight, but not what what we expected. Breezy said, that's what they've been asking for months now, all week, eh? Yeah, according to what Jamal Hill says. Diego Lopez to headline Brazil, says Ash. Book it. What I mean, that's if he gets past our boy Sadiq Youssef, UFC 300. Got to remind ourselves about that. Ash says, or Angus will claim someone from Brazil. Oh, I see a banter in the chats. Breezy says, no, we need to keep Tom healthy for London or Manchester. This is also true because there is rumour that maybe the UFC will visit Manchester in the summer. So, yeah. But, yeah, that is true. Because you're going to need Leon to headline pay-per-views. I can't see them bringing another pay-per-view over to the UK, I'm afraid. I just think the UFC are going to run out of options for fights now that they've made these massive cards. So they're going to try. They will try and get Aspinall in. George Murray says Andrade versus her wife, UFC 301. Ooh dear. Oof. All right. Breezy says wait in Garry fight out of Brazil. Well, it's fight night worthy though, isn't it? It's not a headliner, but we could see it. Yeah, Ian Garry fighting Brazil if he's healthy and ready to go. Or could you do Ian Garry versus Colby Covington as a headliner in Brazil? We've seen Colby versus Masvidal headliner pay-per-view. We see Colby versus someone else. Oh no, we saw Masvidal and someone else, didn't we, as a headliner? That wasn't a title fight. So, yeah. Breezy says, I'll have a think and plan it. Good man. Let us know. Yeah, we'll get into more about Garry and Covington in just a sec. The next thing that we move on to then was this little stat here, which was quite interesting. Conor and Topuria at 27, both with a record of 7-0 in the UFC and 15-fight win streak. Very intriguing, right? So, do you make these comparisons between the two? It's kind of hard, really. Maybe Topuria will take off in Spain now that he's a champion, but the thing that he lacks is the trash talking. He's not very good at it. I mean, it's not really surprising, is it? Because English isn't his first language, but he does struggle with during press conferences. He had me worried leading into the fight week, to be honest. I felt that maybe his confidence had gone because Volk was getting all the attention and people were there for Volk. But look, props to him for passing with flying colours. He had the confidence to go in there, film a documentary about him winning the belt, and also changing his bio that he was the champion with 15-0 already. So, look, props to him. He's got McGregor levels of confidence. He did exactly what McGregor did in the post-fight, the pre-fight press conference by stealing the belt off the table. So, look, he's clearly trying to go the same way about it. But, is it going to be stadium worthy? I mean, look, first of all, my opinion is I don't think Conor's too big for Topuria. We got to talk about it anyway because he did call out Conor. Why not? But I can't see it, man. Look, I think I said in our group chat, I think that Topuria would need to bulk up and look like Darren Wynn if he wants to fight Conor, because Conor's not going to be cutting weight. Let's be real. You got to meet him at middleweight, and Topuria at middleweight, someone his size, he's gonna need at least 2 years to bulk up, and I can't see that happening, I'm afraid. Breezy said on Bruce's announcement, he said Ian Garry fighting out of Chutobox, Brazil. So he's basically Brazilian. Like the less entertaining till at this point. Okay, that's a good comparison to make. Breezy says it's not the same. Conor at this point already had the MMA community on the balls. That is true. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see now how the fans treat Topuria coming off of this win. Or does he need to beat Volk again in order to kind of get more fans' respect in there? I don't know. Maybe the fans already have his respect for getting the knockout in the first place. I don't know. Don't know what you guys think. But let's move on then to sticking with the topic of UFC Spain. We've got this little gem here. Dana has never heard of the Santiago Bernabeu before and asked all the right questions about it during his post-fight press conference. To do with the capacity of it and whether it's indoor or outdoor. And then kind of like said, oh, yeah, all right, we'll look at it. So the press put the feelers out there for the Spanish fans. I think they will go to Spain anyway. Like I said earlier, its timing would make sense. But the question is, why would you do a stadium event in Spain before the UK? I mean, that's one of the questions, you know? Yes, okay, it depends on location and venue and etc, etc. You've never been to Spain before. For your first event to be a stadium event would have to be huge. I think it'd be a bit of a risk. Too much of a risk for the UFC. I think they'll do an arena, personally. But hey, I could be surprised. Because the other question is, would it sell many tickets out there? I mean, we don't know how big MMA is in Spain, really. No one. I don't think anyone does. Not in the UK, not in the US, or Canada, Australia. Australia's a big place for MMA. We've known that. We've seen that. But, you know, it's going to be difficult. Especially, I think the UFC would need to sign more fighters from Spain. We haven't got many. I know two off the top of my head. Ilia Topuria and Joel Alvarez. That's it. So you're going to have to sign up a bunch of people that nobody's known about. Dana White Contender Series level of fighters. But do you guys think that perhaps Topuria needs one more title defense first before we see a stadium event in Spain? What do you think? I don't know. Lots to go through, a lot to consider by the UFC. But surely the UK fans deserve a stadium event over here first. Breezy says ATF in Spain. ATF in Spain. What do I want? ATF in Spain. Yeah. Can we hire out a villa? Can we get the watch along going in the villa? Pop down to the venue. Speak to some Spanish fans. Try and speak to Spanish fans again. We did that before. George says a stadium in the UK I don't think would sell out. I know, so that's what... I know, I think at a push, it would be an absolute push to sell out a stadium in the UK, I think. Unless the card is insane. You know, I think maybe you'd have to put on 2 title fights in order to get people to pay the money. Because the tickets are getting more expensive. But, you know, if the UK doesn't barely sells out, I can't see Spain doing it. So they would have to do a small event in Spain. I don't know. Breezy says, I think Spanish fans would lap it up to watch in that particular stadium. I mean, I'd want to go. It's not too bad cost-wise to get to Spain. That's true. Yeah, I guess you probably get a mixed bag of a card between Spanish and Brits. You would, I think. Yeah, I think so. And of course, maybe Swedish Penny Kanzed, people like that. I don't know. Smash a like on the video, guys, if you've not done so already. Great stuff tonight. Keep it going. Let's go on to our last topic of the night. Garry calling out Colby Covington. Smart move for him. But we saw something come out about the fight purses of the fighters. And apparently Gary's was 110k, which included his win bonus, which was apparently less than Dern, Lemos, Hernandez, and De Lima. Which kind of doesn't really make sense. I mean, it's all over the internet. I don't know how true it is, personally. I didn't really believe it. Our inside sources at ATF reckoned it was true. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. But if that is the thing, if that is the case, surely Ian Garry's got to negotiate a new deal. Come on, it's time. So if that is the case, he won't be headlining that event in Brazil. Maybe the negotiations could take some time. Because look, a lot of eyeballs have been on Ian Garry. He's made a massive stir online for his life choices in a lot of ways. So, and he's become a bit of a villain, which I don't think suits him very well. But I guess, would Colby take the fight against Garry? That's another thing. I don't think he would. I think that Ian Garry would have to really go at him hard. He's got to literally be DMing him, tagging him in posts all the time. Just really poke fun. Almost like Muhammad Ali level of poking, you know? If Colby's going to be at a UFC event as a special guest, he's going to be there in the crowd as well to antagonise him. That's what Ian Garry needs to do. But also, I think this fight's a perfect fight for Garry because it's a chance for him to win back some fans here, you know? Because let's face it, I think there's a lot of people dislike Ian Garry more than there is that like him. So if he goes out there, puts on a display against Colby, beats Colby, because look, no one really likes Colby, and people love the fact that they don't like Colby. So it's perfect for Ian. And I hope he gets the fight. He did, I think, on the MMA Hour, turn down the idea of fighting Sean Brady, which I don't think was a good idea. That's clear ducking to me. Because you just come off of a win, you just come off of fights against, alright, no disrespect, Neil Magny and Jeff Neal. Your next fight up is Sean Brady, I'm afraid. They're coming off of back-to-back decisions. You didn't finish either of those guys, so I don't think you deserve to fight anybody further up. That's what I'm leaning to on one side. But then the other side of me thinks, well, the Colby fight's going to be more entertaining. That's going to sell more. So, and especially, like I said earlier, if you're struggling for main event slots, maybe you could do it. And it would be the ultimate villain fight. So, I don't know about you guys. Live stream from the stadium, says Breezy. Book a conference room out. George says, only a few stadiums have roof, one being Tottenham Stadium, and particularly in Cardiff. So, we're going to get 72,000 fans for a fight night. Yeah. Breezy says, if it's stacked all with Europeans, then people would travel. It's not bad for English, French, Italian, and German and Georgian fans. True that. Very central kind of hub. George says, F Colby, the Weasel, 0-3 in undeserved title shots. Go back to hiding from Jorge. The UFC is better without him. I've got to agree with you there, George. That is true. But Ian Garry, paper-wise, is the better fight for him. Isn't it? It lines up perfectly. But in this post here, Garry says, I promise you, I will end that fight. I will finish that fight. And I'll rid UFC of Colby Covington once and for all. He needs to go. He needs to be gone. I'm sick of his nonsense. He's a piece of shit. So, yeah, a loss against Ian Garry. It's hard to figure out what would be next for Colby after that. So, yeah, maybe perhaps he's right in that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it should be Colby Covington, or do you think perhaps that Ian Garry should fight the likes of Sean Brady, who I think is injured at the moment? Breezy says Dana after was pretty black and white on it. It was a win, but it wasn't Costa versus Whittaker. No, yeah, you're right. That is true. That is true, my man. Awesome stuff in the comments, as always. There's been some exciting topics. Let's take us back now. Yeah, man, we're here. That is it. That is an absolute wrap. You guys have been awesome in the chats as always. Thanks for tuning in. And smash a like on the video if not done so already. And make sure you've got the notifications bell rang as well, so you know when we're live to have these conversations, and you never know what could be coming up your way. This weekend, make sure you tune in. We've got a UFC watch along at the same time as this past weekend's pay-per-view sort of times. The UFC going to be live from Mexico. Brandon Moreno rematching Brandon Royval in the main event. We've also got Yair Rodriguez rematching Brian Ortega. Of course, Brian Ortega got injured when those two last met, so that was quite unfortunate. We've also got on the card as I get it up now. No, wrong one. Can any of you guys remember the fights? Not into it yet. Raul Jr. makes his return against Ricky Tarkos. I think that's a fun one. We've got Chris Duncan back in, the Scottishman, against Manuel Torres. So, yeah, not a bad card. Make sure you're there with us for that one. And, of course, don't watch alone. Watch along. Breezy says, thanks, JK. Great one today. Thank you, sir. Yes, stick around, stay tuned, and we'll see you this weekend. Have a good night. Take it easy. Ciao for now. Much love.